Piccolo vs. Android 17 is one of the most iconic fights within Dragon Ball and stands out almost the most due to its intense moments between Piccolo and 17 going blow for blow with each other. And the fight's conclusion left things very up to interpretation as to how things would have gone if the fight continued, or just who was truly the better fighter of the two as the one winning the fight. So in this video, I'll be breaking the fight down and providing the stats from the fight to make a conclusion on who I think had won the fight based on the time we had of the two fighting. If you're new to the channel and want to see more Dragon Ball content from myself, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave ideas for future content down below. 17 and Piccolo arrive to the battlefield, but just as Piccolo lands to the ground, 17 wastes no time and immediately just charges straight at Piccolo, and Piccolo ends up blocking that punch. I think it's crazy how a lot of anime fights you definitely think of the two fighters like talking to each other right before they initially go for it, but that's not the case here. 17 throws an insane barrage of punches. Like I just said, he's really letting his fists do the talking. Piccolo is able to defend, and you see how, he is able to block and dodge and even try and throw his own strikes too back at 17. The problem is that Piccolo's on the back foot right now, and you see he's constantly moving back. He's trying to break away from 17's pressure, and he's just unable to do so. 17 is finally able to connect one of his punches, and he actually sends Piccolo flying into the mountain, and then right as Piccolo hits it, 17 fires a ki blast of his own to finish him off. Piccolo was able to block this ki blast, and you see him coming out of this situation unscratched, and right afterwards, Piccolo charges straight at 17, and you actually see him move so fast that you actually end up seeing one of his after images. But when Piccolo actually strikes 17, he also fakes him out, as you see that he has his right arm cocked back as if he's going to actually throw across, but you actually see that when he actually strikes, he actually extends out both of his hands to kind of push 17 away, and you see that he pushes 17 and he flies back, hitting the mountain as well, just like what 17 did to Piccolo. And he does that because then you see that with Piccolo's hands just out there wide open like that, he's now able to immediately follow up with a ki blast of his own. 17 is able to evade Piccolo's ki blast by actually hiding himself underground, and he emerges up from the surface right behind Piccolo and goes immediately to throw a round kick while he's still in the process of firing the ki blast, but Piccolo was able to block that round kick at the literal last second. Now we see the fight continue from Piccolo's perspective, where beforehand, he was more so on the defensive, but now it seems, he's the one on the offensive pushing 17 back, and we see that he dodges a couple of strikes, and then we see he actually is able to grab 17's head and he lifts him up into the air as if he's about to throw him. Now I think that Piccolo actually made quite a mistake here, as once he has a hold of 17's head, instead of immediately following up with what he was going to do, whether it be throwing him or trying to take him down, he just has a hold of 17 and just decides to run straight with him for a second, which was just pointless. And then when it comes down to actually trying to throw him, you see that the way he throws 17 and 17's legs more so being pointed towards the ground as 17 almost is about to be thrown, and the fact that Piccolo's really just putting his weight onto the front side of his body, you see that 17, when he's about to be thrown, is in a position where he can actually use his hips and his lower body, and he overpowers Piccolo's arm and is able to literally lift him over his head. And now that, because of the position that he's pointed in and he has his lower body to assist him, he's able to perform a way more effective takedown and slams Piccolo to the floor. Piccolo's recovery was also so amazing here, as even while he's on the ground, he lifts 17 by his shirt and then just slams him into the ground head first. 17 gets right back up, and what 17 does is he grabs Piccolo by the arm and literally swings him around for a good second and then just throws Piccolo into the air. And what 17 was actually trying to do was he was trying to power up, so what he does is that he throws Piccolo away from him in order to create space between him and Piccolo, so that way he has the time to power up. 17 then goes straight for Piccolo and lands an insane body shot on Piccolo. Look at his hand, it's literally going through his stomach. And then Piccolo immediately responds with a body shot of his own, doing the literal same thing to 17. 17 and Piccolo then literally go blow for blow, and they literally both land these insane body shots on each other several times. Then Piccolo and 17 both kick each other in the head, and it actually sends them completely off balance, and they actually fly straight into the floor. Piccolo gets up and jumps into the air, and Android 17 flies right at him, chasing him down, and Android 17 lands a flying side kick straight at Piccolo's face. Piccolo literally just shook off this kick, and then in response, he fires a ki blast at 17, which does connect, and this ki blast literally sends 17 straight to the floor. He's able to break his fall and land on the ground, but right when he lands, he literally drops down to the floor, and Piccolo is the one who's still standing. So to be fair, Cell does just outright interrupt this fight's conclusion, so I do have to end this fight here, but I do just want to note before I end that this is Piccolo right here. You see how exhausted he looks, and how you can tell the body shots that he took from 17 are clearly starting to take a toll on him. But the main thing I wanted to note was that right before Cell steps in and interferes with this fight, 17 does just get back up. So I can't say what would have happened, but I do just want to note that it wasn't Piccolo standing over 17 who was just done fighting. Like, he was ready to continue. On the screen are the total stats from this fight. A very big contrast between Piccolo and 17 have to be the strike count, where 17 threw significantly more strikes than Piccolo did, but 17 only landed 3 more strikes than Piccolo. I think the main explanation has to be in reference to the insane combination of strikes that 17 threw in this fight. The androids have unlimited stamina, so this just is the perfect way to actually take advantage of this by constantly upping the pressure and cause Piccolo to use his limited stamina to defend. I just think it's so important to acknowledge as well that even though 17's stamina is unlimited, he is trying to hit Piccolo, and Piccolo is able to defend against 17 pretty well. And what I think was most notable was Piccolo's recovery, as throughout the fight, we see 17 will land a crazy shot on Piccolo, who will immediately respond with one of his own and ending up matching 17. And I think it comes to a point where you can tell 17 is kind of caught off guard, as he was just not expecting Piccolo to come back from that. Now, in terms of the fight's end, we know 17 wasn't completely taken out, but we do got to acknowledge how strong of an end Piccolo had with this final attack that he used. Piccolo did send a powerful blast on 17 that did lead him to be on the floor, and I think that this is still a very dominant way to look at things when trying to score this. Piccolo versus 17 in terms of who was more accurate will of course go to Piccolo, although he did throw significantly less strikes than 17, but I don't think that matters too much when you take a fight like this where 17 will throw dozens of strikes, land hardly any, yet for Piccolo, he'll wait for the right time to strike in exchange for having a high strike total, but with the little amount of strikes he actually ended up thrown, he ends up landing most of them. And also, all but one strike of his were also shots that actually hurt 17, so he's also exchanging that high number of strikes for a higher quality of strikes too. In conclusion for all of this, my scoring for this fight is a 10-9, and I gave the win to Piccolo based on his timings, recovery performance, and strikes that actually ended up landing. If you want to see me do this again with other fights, please let me know which down in the comment section below for future videos.